Hey everyone, what's going on? Back with a brand new video. We are diving into another Stephen King book. Actually, let me rephrase that. We are diving into the first of the Richard Bachman books in my Stephen King journey once again, and today we are going to be discussing Richard Bachman's first book published, and that is Rage. Now, Rage was first published in 1977. If you don't know about Richard Bachman, obviously this is Stephen King's pseudonym he went under during the late 70s, and he has 7 published books under the name of Richard Bachman. There are what's called the Bachman Books. There are 4 books within that book itself, which Rage being one of them, The Running Man, The Long Walk, and Roadwork. After those Bachman books, there are 3 more. One is called Blaze. One is The Regulators, I believe. The last published book that Stephen King did under the name Richard Bachman was Thinner. Now, like I mentioned, I'm going to be going through this journey once again, and Richard Bachman books will be popping in and out here as I go onto the journey, but we are discussing Rage for the first one. As you can see from the beginning of the video, I put a warning, an explicit warning. You can also tell by the thumbnail, because we are going to be talking about something very delicate about this book that I'm going to be getting into in just a second. But before I go into that, I must mention that this book, out of every Stephen King book that he has published, this is the one that is off the shelf, if you want to say. You can still find copies of Rage everywhere, even within the Bachman books, which I actually just ordered a set of the Bachman books. Well, shouldn't say set. I ordered 1 book of the Bachman books, and it was actually like $99 off Amazon, just because this book is so, like, now it's not only just old, but again, it's kind of hard to find, and if it's hard to find for a good price. But Rage itself, if you are trying to buy Rage itself out there, it can go for anywhere from like $1 to $2 grand, and that might be the minimum. So some people are charging up to like double figures for it. It's crazy. But the reason why that Rage is unpublished or off the shelf, if you want to say that he doesn't, obviously, like, you can't buy it on Amazon like just like you can buy any other Stephen King or Richard Bachman book, it's because this book has a very sensitive topic, especially to my heart, because I am a teacher and we are talking about school shootings. Now, you see all over the world, you see on the news, and again, I don't follow news, I don't follow politics, I really don't want to, because I don't want to put all that stuff in my head and then just have that just affect how I teach, how I live, and how I just try to enjoy every day. Stephen King, once he published this book and it got out there were some school shootings that started happening, and after the school shootings started occurring, was it because of his book? Who knows? Did it help it? Probably not. Once all those school shootings started happening, he took the book off the shelf, and again, he basically unpublished the book. As we dive into Rage, it takes place in Placerville High School, which is the school that this story is obviously going to be, in the very sensitive topic of the school shooting. We follow the main character, Charles Decker, and Charles Decker is a very, not traumatized kid, but he's a very disturbed kid, and again, he's had a very interesting childhood. Again, there's flashbacks of his childhood within this story, and I like when Stephen King does the flashbacks, but again, there's certain point for a certain time with flashbacks, but this one made sense because at a young age he had a disturbed kind of like camping trip with his father and his father's friends. They were drunk, and there's more specifics, you would have to read it. But with Charlie Decker coming into the story as the main character, you don't want to really call him, I guess you can call him like the protagonist and the antagonist of this book, because obviously school shootings happen. I'm not going to mention how it happens or who dies in what way and all that jazz. You would again have to read that for yourself, but obviously Charlie is the one to cause this. Again, Charlie is full of rage, and I don't mean to make that as a pun, but he's full of fury and just very disturbed thoughts. And again, this happens within the story, and it happens actually at a decent pace too. Once he does what he does in the story, it takes place into the classroom. He then takes over that classroom and he holds all the students in there hostage. While Charlie is holding the students hostage, everyone outside has vacated the school, but they're out there on the front lawn. Police come, ambulances come, even probably reporters come are there too. And then every so often, the principal and then other people too start to come in, and they talk on the loudspeaker to Charlie. And then Charlie is actually able to communicate through the loudspeaker through the classroom, and they just have this kind of back and forth. What is like Charlie's ransom? Why is he holding them? So as that is happening too, Charlie again is not only just holding these students hostage, but they are also going through kind of like this finding themselves in a way, because as they just sit there, where Charlie has the gun and he's not really just pointing it at people, all these students are sharing different stories of their life, and they're talking about everything pretty much, like their past, depression, anxiety, sex, their insecurities, and a whole bunch of other different emotions that basically they take turns just going through and just basically dissecting each other based off what happens. And again, there's instances where this person dated, and like this person had sex with this person. It's crazy because because it's just in a very limited setting. And when it comes to Stephen King books in limited settings, sometimes they don't really work out very well. But in Rage, again, with this story being a very sensitive topic, this setting actually makes the story go, I don't want to say quicker, but it also makes it go a little more smoother because you can understand how the scene is going, what is going, instead of just different settings popping in and out like other Stephen King books. Now, if you have read Rage or you haven't read Rage, I can't recommend you read it, especially if you're very sensitive to this topic, especially if you're very like touchy to traumatic things that like kind of can just like, you don't want them in your brain, you don't want to think about those situations. And again, that's another reason why I don't follow politics, I don't watch the news, I don't want all of that. Now, is that a bad thing against me? I don't know. Like, am I knowing what's going on in the world? Probably not, but could I care less? Yeah, I really don't care what goes on in the world. If I can just live my life, be happy the way I am, enjoy my career, enjoy living day to day, then that's all I ask for. Like, going back, I don't want to recommend this book, but I want you to understand too that this story is written for not a reason, but Stephen King back then, if you know about him, he also was a teacher. So he was also understanding this from a teacher's point of view too. So it's scary to think about, especially for those teachers out there. If you're a teacher out there watching this video, I applaud you for your hard work and dedication. In the story with Charlie holding the whole class, asking for the ransom, and then at the end when it transitions, and then this book is fairly short, it's about 180 pages. So within the Bachman books, the Bachman book is very, very thick, but that's a hardcover, of course. And the other stories within it are longer than Rage, but Rage being a short story, there's a lot going on within the small amount of pages. And at the end, when it goes into the end, I can't tell you again, I'm not gonna spoil it, because you know, my channel, I don't give spoilers. But at the end, when things happen, you can kind of understand the point of view of what's happening and how it just basically the way it ends. It could be like a big breather after you're done finishing. Like, wow, what did I just read? Some people like to say this is the worst book ever. There are ratings all over from Amazon to Goodreads that all these ratings out there are just basically plummeting Stephen King, Richard Bachman for this book. Like, why in the hell would he write this book? There are other reviews that actually enjoy it, and I am actually one of these. Now, I obviously don't like the school shooting part because that's very sensitive, but I enjoy the story itself. Like, it's a psychological thriller, but what happens and the basic dissecting of each student of like how they're like going back to their past, analyzing their mistakes, Charlie thinking about other people's mistakes compared to what he's doing right there. It's just, there's a lot to analyze just in the short amount of pages, like I mentioned. I do give this book 5 stars. On my tier list though, I did put it on the good section. Like, this wasn't a book that I put up with Salem's Lot and The Shining. Again, if you can stomach, obviously, you know, these very traumatic things like everything like school shootings or animal cruelty and just different things that writers and authors write about, then this is a book then you probably might enjoy. Again, comment in the comments below if you have read Rage or have thought about Rage. Like, I want to hear the different point of views for this because again, it is a very sensitive book. The topic of it is one that a lot of people do not want to talk about. And again, being as a teacher, I couldn't imagine having a student or just an ex-student just do this stuff. It's just, it's a hard thing to think about. And I love teaching. I love what I do. I love my career. These kiddos I teach, it's the world to me. And I could not ever want to take that away from, you know, my life and anyone else's life too. That's a teacher as well. Now, before I go, I do want to mention the characters a little more because now Charlie is the main character, but again, the other characters in Soul, like, they don't really have a big role. There are, again, they're different stories and the different situations they talk about. So if you just read this book and you focus on Charlie, you understand point of view he's obviously telling the story from. It is from his point of view. Characters, I could probably say they could have been a little bit better, but with it being a very short book, then you just get what you get. Again, this was published in 1977. So again, Richard Bachman's first book, Stephen King using the pseudonym. And I do like it that in the beginning of the Bachman books, in the introduction of the Bachman books, that's with the 4 books all combined together, Stephen King had written about why he chose to be Richard Bachman for the time being. And he compared his books, the Bachman books, to his Stephen King books. So that's a very interesting to read about. So if you do read the Bachman books, you will see that introduction. And I do highly recommend you check that out because I always try to analyze why Stephen King wrote that certain book. And I've been doing it since I've been doing this journey again. I really want to dive into the details of the Bachman books. And the older ones should be coming up pretty frequently, like Road Work, The Long Walk, and The Running Man. Those were all written in, like, in the same kind of bubble area, and I can't remember which one is next, and I don't want to say it right now because I probably messed it up, but one of those will be coming up soon. I am actually right now on Night Shift, which is the first collection of short stories that Stephen King put together. There's about, I think, 20 of them. So Night Shift, a very, very good book so far, but as this is the conclusion to Rage, again, I thank you all for continuing to support my channel. If you love books, love music, this is the channel for you. Keep reaching out. Again, message me as much as you want. Branch out to your friends and family if they love books and music. Let them know about my channel. And like I always say, my friends, please read your book cover to cover. We'll see y'all later.